Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 15th of the month, already middle of August here. We're looking at the buy-sell D test 2 here, which is interesting because made some nice advancements. However, we've been looking at the cyan here, the DOC, which tells us that shorts pretty much been vacant in this setup and allowing bulls to have their way. But the problem with that is you don't get much of a rise when shorts aren't active because it takes an awful lot to propel things. We had the nice move with the money coming in from the beginning of the month, which was the funds around the 5th, but that's sort of worn out. Shakeout starting to fade. We're starting to make as high or higher highs now on lower shakeout readings. That's going to have an impact. Now, the key is, will cyan move above the red here? It looks as though we're already set to do that. Pre-market, we're slightly up here with a couple of points. No surprise with any of that. It's right within our expectation of continued long. Once we get to 21.85, I suggested that we would be helped along towards the 2200 range. It's not going to take much to get to that point. We'll look at the intraday ES or the S&P in just a little bit. NQ has been the strongest of all and still maintains that. As long as you have that cyan clean underneath there. Now, it might move above zero here, which would show a little bit more short activity, which actually could help lift the market softly, which that short covering usually does, and it just fuels further purchases. The Dow also looking strong from that standpoint. In the same configuration, but look at the same problem. It's going to have to really see a continuation of that rising shakeout. But like we saw here with the dip below the red line, I mean, we have this barely any point drop. We saw that we were already below the red line. We liked anything that moved back above the green ABM right here, and sure enough, that was right off the number one, which indicates an oversold condition. Number two, the buy, and I mean, it's been an excellent propelling from the 18.3, so we're already at 18.5, so it's been worth a couple hundred points. Nothing dramatic. Oil posting a little bit of a turn back. We did this super oversold, and then we came with the crossover right back here after the number two, and it's been going along fairly decently. Gold, nothing happening with gold at this particular point. It's been a short paddling between the ABM values. TLT, I think, is just a little overdone. There's not much room left until they announce some type of negative rate. And the euro staying right within our band right there. And then we even had a topside ceiling right around the 112. Every time it hits 112, it's been rejected softly, and no objection to that. So now here's what we have is the 5K chart here. Now this is the, if I click it, the buy-sell D test 2, this is what you currently see where trade comes through, hits the target, but doesn't quite flip over. So what we've been working on, and here's the latest version of that, the same short signal, and then boom, it hits the target and then converts. Now, what I'll actually have later today will be the buy configurations that will work as soon as we've cleaned ourselves to the long algo derivatives. Actually, if we scroll back into this a little bit, you can see that erase some of the long plays. So what'll happen, let me just grab over here. We can take a look at a couple. So signal comes in, boom. Now, there's going to be a follow through on short signals that work. So for instance, you had this one here, got close, not quite, came up, didn't hit the target, and then boom, finally reached the target. And so it's playing a little bit longer. And if you look at your charts versus these, you'll see that it would either change color before it reached stop or the target. And so this is going to give us the effect of actually treating the paint bar like a trade as opposed to just coloring some trends. It's actually going to be an effective trade. So I scrolled back a little bit further here, and you can see a couple of them that came in. This is right about 7:15 for date. Signal comes in, boom, hits the target immediately, and there it is. I'll probably have it colored to the target all the way to it dipping below the target, just like here, as opposed to the next bar closing after it. We'll let it do its thing first and then flip the color. And then what'll be is I may leave this as a neutral or continuation short is what'll happen when we reach targets, depending on what the readings are, whether it will take it at that point or it will become a trail stop. And it also depends on the ATR in some of these cases. In this particular case, this was over 6.25 points for the dip. At that point, probably would have locked in 5 and then trailed using the long algo based on the signals. So I think it should be very effective. It's very exciting to see that actually come through, and treating it more as you would actually trade, which will be great when this actually is available both in alternative platform like multi-charts or something like that, where you can't necessarily tie an automation, but will still allow us to do much easier automation within TradeStation for actual strategies. So strategies, we can take a look at a 50K has been making new equity highs as it strides further and further within the trends. Hold on, let me get a performance report here. Okay, so here's the performance report on that 50K. You can look at the graph. Now the graph is interesting because this is going to change dramatically, because as we have this adaptation and are able to follow this, we're not going to see drawdown effects. We're going to end up with, and in a lot of these trades we even talk about not even getting involved in. It was interesting when we look at periodic returns from a yearly standpoint. This year's been phenomenal last year given the chop, but again, this is why we go over some of the trades, because it's like, we know clearly when we end up with a DOC spread going, it's like, nope, time to lock in some gains on this. In this particular case, bought again after being stopped out on just the slow run. Some of these stop outs are not based on what our readings are indicating. They're just based on the fact that time has run out for what we find is an effective run, or it's gone into a stagnation, like this kind of flatness. So we're not going to need to worry about that with the power mode readings that are going to be incorporated into it now, and that is going to be very very dynamic that way, which I think is very exciting for us. Something I've been working on to try and change a lot of this language over the last year plus, and it's been challenging, but we're finally at that point where we're getting the actual results. And so as soon as I can have some of these adaptations finalized, I've been splitting between changing the colors from the shakeout, the Power Mode 2 developments, and the paint bar. But I'd like to get at least the paint bar with some of these adjustments so that you can follow the trades exactly. I mean, you'll know the point values going to be setting up. And now this does in two ways, because you can do ATR, which is the average true range, and how far it moves up and down based on the volatility of the given market at the time, versus a point set where it's you can actually pick. And the nice part about this, you'll be able to adjust the input values, and those input values will then change how the paint bar looks. So it'll be customizable based on chart, your preference as far as risk tolerance, how many points you're willing to go with. I mean, in some of these cases, this ATR versus target is very aggressive in the sense that it locks in quite a bit of point values. So with very almost a 1-to-1 risk ratio, and so when you end up with more than 55+% win rate, is going to be a phenomenal profit factor on some of these trades. What you see with the magenta here is, well, here's a good stop out one. This one actually came through, but you can see the number 2 buy pretty close to the break even, but boom, there it hit going above. So in some of these you would see the magenta going all the way up until you get to the crossover in that. And here's a very long one that took a while before it finally reached its target of just under 6 points there. So all in all, good developments, very exciting to see that, and it will end this move here and actually be able to get the buy signal that will come in, and it'll turn green, and that will be much even before the turnaround point. And then also we're going to have some of the new short setups with the red numbers that will come in, and that will begin these short signals a little earlier. So all interesting items. As always, though, nice with the quiet market, gives opportunity to work on this stuff exclusively, which we've been doing for quite a while now, but finally starting to see the results of all that effort. So that's a good thing. As always, though, continue to look for me on the Skype chat. Trade well.